September 11, 2001, the United States experienced one of the most devastating terrorist attacks in the history, where a series of airline hijackings and suicide attacks committed by 19 militants associated with the Islamic extremist group al-Qaeda against targets in the United States, making it the deadliest terrorist attack on American soil in history. The attacks against New York City and Washington, D.C. caused extensive death and destruction and triggered an enormous U.S. effort to combat terrorism. 2,750 people were killed in New York, 184 at the Pentagon and 40 in Pennsylvania, where one of the hijacked planes crashed into the ground after the passengers attempted to retake the plane. All 19 terrorists died. Police and fire departments in New York were especially hard hit. Hundreds rushed to the scene of the attacks, and more than 400 police officers and firefighters were killed. The September 11 attacks were precipitated in large part because Osama bin Laden, the leader of the militant Islamic organization al-Qaeda, held naive beliefs about the United States in the run-up to the attacks. Abu Walid al-Masri, an Egyptian who was a bin Laden associate in Afghanistan in the 1980s and 90s, explained that in the years prior to the attacks, bin Laden became increasingly convinced that America was weak. The emotional distress caused by the attacks, particularly the collapse of the Twin Towers, New York City's most visible landmark, was overwhelming. Moreover, world markets were badly shaken. The events of 9/11 have far-reaching consequences, but domestically and internationally. In the US, it led to the establishment of the Department of Homeland Security, the passage of that of the US Patriot Act, and the implementation of extensive security measures, particularly in air travel. Globally, the attacks changed the nature of internal relations and counter-terrorism, leading to wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and a rethinking of how governments approach both terrorism and civil liberties. The towers were at the heart of New York's financial districts and damage to Lower Manhattan's infrastructure, combined with fears of stock market panic, kept New York's market closed for 4 trading days. Despite their success in causing widespread destruction and death, the 9/11 attacks were a strategic failure for al-Qaeda. The memory of September 11 continues to shape U.S. policies and foreign policy, and the site of the World Trade Center, now home of the 9/11 Memorial and Museum, serve as a place of reflection and remembrance for the lives lost. 23 years later, the events of 9/11 continue to shape the US and the world. Do not forget to follow us on our social media platforms at factnewshausa and factnewsafrica.